What's going on, everyone? I'm just a simple American man here today to react to an introduction to UK Parliament, which is the UK government, which I desperately do need explained to me, as embarrassing as that may be. Uh, I know that there is a prime minister, and maybe that is somewhat equivalent to the USA president, but other than that, I really have no grasp, no concept of what the United Kingdom government, how it's formed, how laws are created, who's actually in control, how fair things are, how much influence certain branches have, and all those sorts of things. I only have my own US government to kind of compare things to, so I think that's actually going to be kind of interesting to see how they compare. So without further ado, let's take a look here. This video is actually by UK Parliament, the YouTube channel. Who knew? Probably means it's pretty legit, right? Hold on, no closed captions. Here we go.
Healthcare, education, the environment, international aid, crime. Issues affecting all our lives are shaped and driven by Parliament. But how did it all begin? What does
You know, this doesn't have anything to do with anything I've learned thus far, but I do appreciate how they kind of make these videos almost aimed at children, or very simple pop-up words, pop-up little clip art pictures. I appreciate that. That's right in my range of understanding.
Parliament do all day, and how do you fit in? Parliament has evolved throughout its long history to become what it is today, changing over time to meet the needs of the people. Two key historical events began this process. In 1215, King John put his seal on Magna Carta and agreed to a list of 63 rules set out
Wow, we're really going back in time here. Okay.
by a group of barons. This ensured for the first time that no one, not even the king, was above the law. 50 years later,
Okay.
Simon de Montfort, for the first time, invited representatives of the towns and shires to his 1265 Parliament. These events established the foundations for the representative democracy.
So things just some good people came along and things kind of gradually grew towards democracy and electing representatives, allowing representatives to actually have influence and let that rule things. By the way, is this history lesson very, very familiar to all of the UK people watching this? Because I have never heard any of these people ever before, any of this ever. And I feel like this might, maybe that's Paul Revere and Abraham Lincoln for the US, or maybe you all know that, I don't know. I'm just kind of curious how well known this stuff is.
Democracy we have today, and from this point onwards, the power to make decisions for the nation passed, over time, from the monarch to Parliament.
Yeah, of course. I didn't even mention the monarchy. What the most familiar thing as an American to me when I think England, when I think UK, I think royalty, the crown. That's the most vibrant image that comes into my head. Not a prime minister, not a governing body, but this image of a queen or something. So that's almost kind of funny. I don't know why that is, but we sure never talk about UK government. Just kind of the tabloids and the royalty are almost like celebrities to us. So it's interesting how that works.
Let's take a closer look at the UK Parliament today.
Let's.
Parliament is made up of three parts: the House of Commons, the House of Lords, and the monarch.
Okay. I don't know where this is going, but in the US, we have three branches of government as well that sound nothing like this. We have the judicial branch, legislative branch, and executive branch, or president. And I'm curious if that at all is kind of what we're talking about here, equivalent in any way?
The House of Commons is the elected chamber of Parliament. It debates big issues, proposes laws, amends existing ones, and challenges the government's work. There are 650 members of parliament, or MPs,
Wow.
who each represent a constituency in the UK.
650 representatives. That is nuts. That's got to be strictly good, right? Like the more representation you can get, the better. The more diversity, the more voices you can hear from different regions of the UK, the better, right? I actually really like that. We have a House of Representatives, which has a ton of, I don't know how many people, but hundreds, I believe, and the Senate as well, which is like a body of elected representatives that debate things. But I actually don't know how fervorously, how much actual debate, like productive debate, gets done in our branches, especially these days. So this sounds great. Like an open discourse, lots of representatives, wonderful.
They belong to either a political party or are independent, and are elected by constituents of the area they want to represent.
What is this? House of Lords? House of Commons?
It debates and the monarch. The House of Commons is the elected chamber of parliament.
House of Commons. Elected chamber of parliament. Good. Sounds good.
The leader of the party that has the most MPs elected after a general election becomes the Prime Minister and heads up the government.
Oh, that's how that works? In America, we just directly elect our president. There is a convoluted, there's a convoluted system that we use. It's not like a direct vote, but it's basically like this is actually a cause of a lot of debate in America, how we vote for the president. We don't just tally up every single individual's vote and the person with the most vote wins. It's this weird electoral college thing where, people in each state vote, and then if your state votes for a certain person that's running, then an electoral college member in charge of your state then casts like a vote for the state, for the president, and each state has like a recognized numerical value of votes depending on the population, sort of. It's extremely convoluted. It's not directly electing people's votes into electing. It's a little more convoluted. But this isn't even like that at all. This is, well, it's interesting. You vote for all these representatives, and then the political party with the most representatives currently, a prime minister is just chosen from that party, because by having the most members of that party currently elected, you're kind of saying this is what party we're going with. This is the majority. This is the party in power. Is that what we're going? This is kind of the gist of it?
Constituents of the area they want to represent. The leader of the party that has the most MPs elected after a general election becomes the Prime Minister and heads up the government. They choose a cabinet made up of 20 senior ministers who coordinate each government department's work. Parties not in power are called the opposition.
The opposition.
MPs from the opposition and government question the government on policy and proposed laws. The Speaker...
That's good. That's good. Like, the party not in power has kind of this obligation to ask questions, like express their viewpoint, just to keep everyone honest and everyone kind of asking questions and debating, trying to find the truth of things, the best way to do things. I think that's pretty healthy, actually.
Keeps the House in order by chairing these debates. The House...
Oh, so there is debate, which is great, and the Speaker kind of moderates it, okay? Yeah, this all sounds pretty good, like, honestly.
House of Lords is the second chamber.
House of Lords, okay. So that was House of Commons.
House in order by chairing these debates. The House of Lords is the second chamber and shares the making and shaping of laws with the House of Commons. It has around 800 members and it's made up...
Wow! Oh my gosh, 800 members? Jeez, where do you put all these people? We do not have thousands of like elected officials like in our branches of government. Sure, we have we have tons of elected officials down to like managing mayors that manage cities and senators and governors which manage states, and president manages the nation, and the Senate also helps in that. And there's lots of elected representatives, but they're dispersed throughout the country. Like some of the time, senators, which represent states, will be like in Congress, like adjourning and meeting, but a lot of the time they'll just be home at their state running things. So I don't know if that is kind of what we're getting at here, where these elected representatives most of the time are back home doing most of their work kind of in the geographical like location, jurisdiction that they come from, perhaps. Maybe that's logical to assume.
Shaping of laws with the House of Commons. It has around 800 members, and it's made up mostly of life peers, and also includes hereditary peers and bishops. Lords are selected for their knowledge.
Whoa. What did he just say? What are these terms?
And also includes hereditary peers and bishops.
Hereditary peers? Bishops? Live peers?
And it's made up mostly of life peers.
Life peers? Live peers? I don't know what any of that means.
And also includes hereditary peers and bishops. Lords are selected for their knowledge and experience, and hold government to account by using their expertise to look at laws and issues in detail. The monarch's role is
Really? That is great. Like, I love that. Scrutinizing laws and stuff, like, that's their expertise. Man, in America, it seems like a lot of the time, maybe not laws, but very random bills and spending can just be passed. And I don't think the population is very aware of what is even being passed in these bills or what's being spent on what. It's all sort of convoluted, or at best not expressed to the public very well. I'm sure you could go on some website somewhere, dig for an hour, and read the most poorly written like government jargon laws if you really put in a lot of effort. But there's a lot of trust, like an immense amount of trust that goes into the American government, the people's trust in the government, to kind of pass a lot of these laws and bills and spending, because we're not very well educated on exactly what it's all being used for, what's being done, like the very specifics. It's fairly commonplace. It's sort of sad. So this is good that the UK government has this House of Lords, I think he said, that one of their duties is to scrutinize laws and bills and stuff.
Mainly ceremonial. He's to look at laws and issues in detail. The monarch's role is mainly ceremonial. They meet the Prime Minister once a week to hear what's going on in Parliament and formally agree every new law. But
I actually didn't know that the monarchs even met with Parliament at all. I didn't know that. I thought they were purely symbolic, like a respected position based on tradition. But they actually meet once a week to keep up to date on things and like hear about the laws and make sure things aren't like going to shit. Things are legit and things are running how they should be run. At least that's what I assume, according to this. That's great. I love to hear that. It increases my respect for the monarchs, knowing that they actually do devote some of their time to playing a role in the actual government.
Once a week to hear what's going on in Parliament and formally agree every new law. But that's not all. There are also people working behind the scenes who support the work of Parliament. Clerks, librarians, researchers, and many more.
That just makes sense for any huge
The government has
body
been
or
elected
business.
to run the country, and Parliament holds the government to account for us, the public. But how? Prime Minister's questions and ministerial questions.
Hold on. What is this? There's a difference between Parliament and government?
The government has been elected to run the country, and Parliament holds the government to account for us, the public.
Really? So, were we just talking about government?
The government has been elected to...
Holding government to account. So we were just talking about all of the different systems and branches of UK government, and then the Parliament, their duty is to hold the government in check, to watch out for the good of the people. Again, that's great. That's wonderful. A body whose sole purpose is just to look out for the interests of the people. Yeah, love it.
Parliament holds the government to account for us, the public. But how? Prime Minister's questions and ministerial questions give MPs and Lords the opportunity to challenge the government's policies. It's in these debates that they can share the views of their constituents and the public and how new policies may affect them. Another
That's
important
great.
way Parliament can scrutinise or look in detail at the work of government is through select committees. Select committees analyse and scrutinise policy. They're made up of either MPs, Lords, or a mixture of both. Together, committee members look at a particular subject and make recommendations on improvements.
That's great. This is all so good. Like, I mean, it's what you'd expect from any kind of modern government or ruling body. There's so many systems of checks here. That's a phrase we use a lot in the United States about our government. It's all based on a system of checks and balances, where nothing can happen that's like too crazy, too quickly, too egregious, because in theory, there's lots of different bodies within the government that you would have to get through and scrutinize things along the way, so that hopefully nothing stupid could possibly happen, but lo and behold, plenty of stupid things do end up happening. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm sure that's true of, it's not a perfect world. But I like what we're doing here, having lots of different committees that their job is to scrutinize policies. It's good.
Witnesses with expertise in the area under scrutiny are called to give evidence, which is used to help shape the committee's inquiry. Members of the public, like you, with a view on the subject can also give evidence for consideration. At the end of an inquiry, a committee writes a report with recommendations
come
that
in.
the government usually
That's great.
responds to within 60 days.
Making
Both
laws.
houses in Parliament share responsibility
I wonder how hard it is. I wonder how hard it is to make and pass laws in the UK.
for making and shaping law. Both houses in Parliament share responsibility for making and shaping laws. But where do laws come from in the first place? A bill is a proposal for a new law, or
Same in the USA. A bill.
to change an existing law, and comes from lots of places, like governing and opposition parties, public inquiries, civil servants, or campaign groups.
Okay.
So how does an idea get
From
turned
lots of
into
places.
a law? Imagine the government wanted to place greater controls over the internet. A proposal called a Green Paper is published, which presents the government's ideas for future policy. This is open for public discussion, with interested groups like internet service providers and
Okay.
others likely to be affected. Once
Good.
findings are gathered, a white
Good.
paper is published, which outlines a firmer plan for government policy. Cabinet ministers must agree whether the proposal is taken forward. Once agreed, a bill is drawn up.
I wonder, they're kind of glossing over this step, but once the bill is proposed, it's submitted in like a formal document, so we formally know what exactly is being proposed, and then those affected can kind of give their 2 cents, they can comment and voice their opinion on it, and then we have like a vote here. I don't know how difficult it is to get past this stage, the vote on proposal stage, but that's definitely an important step, because I feel like you're getting very close to getting it into law at this point if you pass this vote, right?
Must agree whether the proposal is taken forward. Once agreed, a bill is drawn up, and the minister responsible for the policy introduces the bill to Parliament for debate.
Okay.
MPs and members of the House of Lords comment on, debate, or amend the bill through several stages. And at the end of the process, apart from very rare circumstances, it must be agreed by both houses.
Okay.
It's then passed to the monarch, who gives formal approval, or royal assent, and the bill becomes
Really?
law, called
Really? The monarch gives the final go-ahead? The approval? I didn't realize that. I thought it would be the prime minister. I'm gonna have to watch something to explain what the duties of the prime minister are, because I really equated that to the United States president. which has a lot of power in the United States and the final say on lots of things. He can veto things at the last second. He can do like emergency presidential acts if he wants. He can pardon people who have committed crimes. He has lots of special abilities. So it's interesting. I thought that was like a prime minister, but we're actually getting the monarch involved here, which is again cool because I thought they didn't actually do all that much legally speaking. It's very interesting.
An Act of Parliament. In the UK, we live in a democracy, which means power is in the hands of the people through our right to vote.
Democracy.
Throughout history, lots of people in the UK have campaigned for the voting rights we have today. There are lots of different types of elections to vote in.
Very similar
General,
to America.
Local, European. Let's take a closer look at how MPs are elected to the House of Commons through the general election.
Okay.
General elections take place in the UK usually once every 5 years, and every seat is up for grabs.
Wow, that's a fairly long term. If you elect someone, they're going to be there for 5 years. Not an insignificant amount of time. So, I don't know what I feel about term lengths. 5 might be too long. You better have gotten it right, because they're going to be there 5 years. Our president serves for 4. I don't know. That's definitely something I'm sure lots of people think about.
On polling day, voters make a choice from a list of candidates. The candidate with the most votes then becomes that constituency's MP. Okay, but how would I know who to vote for? Before elections, candidates need to campaign to get people to vote for them.
Exactly
Campaigning
like
can
here.
involve handing out political leaflets, speaking in public debates, talking to people during door-to-door visits, and party political broadcasts.
Yep.
Parties standing for election publish a declaration of their policies during the campaign, called a manifesto.
What?
Once elected,
That is great. I love that. What? Is that true? The manifesto? Just a sort of official published document or web page that just outlines your policies? That is great. Like if it's what I imagine. It'd be so crystal clear. You'd know exactly what they support and are against. 'Cause honestly, it's all just hearsay here in the US. I mean, you have their people's voting records, so you can see what they've voted on in the past. But in the present, they can just say they're in favor of whatever. They can tell you, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get this to happen. I'm not gonna allow that to happen. But certainly no official manifesto. I love that. I want that.
of their policies during the campaign, called a manifesto. Once elected, an MP represents all their constituents, even the ones that didn't vote or voted for a different candidate. The party with the most MPs elected forms the government, and their leader becomes Prime Minister. And
Okay.
if there's a hung parliament, where there's no clear winner, then a minority government or a coalition government may be created, or a fresh election held.
Wonder if that's ever happened.
One way to have a say in how the country is run is to use your vote. You have to be 18 or
Absolutely.
over to vote in general elections, but you can register from the age of 16. There are lots
Cool.
of other ways to get involved
Similar
and have
here.
your voice heard, whatever your age. Remember, MPs represent all of their constituents. But how? You can visit an MP in their local constituency office, or
really?
you can even travel to the Houses of Parliament to lobby them in Central Lobby. Lords have knowledge and
I mean, that's always good. I mean, I don't know exactly what they're getting at. Like, you can go knock on their door, like in Parliament, go find their office. That'd be cool. That'd be really, like, very open book, kind of like pure talking straight to them or protesting or whatever. That's all good to be able to do that at any time. Like, when something's important enough, if you want to go protest it, you want your voice to be heard, you can physically go there if you have to, if it's important enough.
experience in specific subject areas. You can look them up by policy interest on the Parliament website. Anyone can contact any Lord or their local MP by letter, phone, or email to discuss an issue that's important to them or their community.
This is wonderful. In theory, you can do this sort of thing in America, but I do feel like I don't know. I've never really done it myself. I just get the feeling that if you wrote a letter to your local representative, that's what they're always telling you to do. Email them, write them a letter about such and such. I feel like they could just throw it away or delete the emails, not look at it. That's the vibe I get, like, from American politicians, that they don't really want to hear it. I don't know if that's a similar feeling in the UK or if you feel more of a genuine sort of attachment, a genuine kinship with your representatives, that you feel like you can call them, email them, and they will listen, because that's how it should be. That'd be great to feel more like that.
Sometimes, though, there's strength in numbers. So, to get your voice heard, you could join the youth section of a party, or the UK Youth Parliament. If you're passionate about an issue, you could start a petition for a cause either on paper or online, or join an existing campaign, pressure or protest group to influence decision making.
Cool.
These groups use different methods to get their voices heard, from lobbying to peaceful protest, all designed to bring about change.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
don't forget, you can get your voice heard in school or college too by joining or starting a student council, a bit like a mini parliament.
Oh, summary,
So,
nice.
Parliament sits at the
Please.
heart of UK democracy, debating the big issues of the day, making and shaping laws, and holding the government to account. By voting, petitioning, campaigning and more, you can also get involved with the work of Parliament. What will you do?
This is inspirational. Wow. Nice video by the UK Parliament. This really gave me kind of a good feeling. Kind of like, it was all very positive. I'm sure they presented this in the most positive light possible, because we are talking about politics here. But I assume this is a reasonably accurate depiction of how the UK government kind of runs. It seems quite fair, quite extensive, like lots of representation, lots of chances for individuals and citizens to have their voices heard. I mean, I feel like in today's age, most American sentiment towards our government has gotten increasingly negative, distrustful. And I am curious if that is any sort of sentiment that's currently felt or experienced in the UK. Is that a global phenomenon? But on the other half of that, I think every American does understand and appreciate that at the core of our government and our democracy, there is this understanding that we do generally all believe that it does work and it is fair and everything is respected and there are ways to make your voice heard and fair ways to enact laws and to get them changed. So it's not all bleak and, there is, I mean, let's be honest, our nations wouldn't be able to function to the capacity that they do and to the success that they do in a lot of things if the governments were not, like, to some extent, pretty rock solid working democracies, which seems to be where we're at, which is great. And this was very educational. I didn't know 99% of this stuff about the UK government. I feel like I'm gonna have to watch this again or watch another video kind of explaining things. I got a little confused between when they brought up that there was a difference between the government and parliament and the three houses at the beginning. I think I may have missed some of the nuance there of what is exactly where and who is where and does what. But I got the gist of it. It was all very good. It all seemed very, it was cool. So, anyway, if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this reaction, feel free to drop a like, comment on any of the things I said, any of the questions I had, or if you have any questions, suggestions, please leave a comment. And feel free to subscribe for more videos just like this. So until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.